I just realized while editing this video that the audio that I pre-recorded beforehand, before finishing the drawings and the script, it didn't work. And also I'm still sick, so please ignore if the environment changes or the audio changes during the duration of this video. I'll have to change locations and record within the span of a few days. Hola! Welcome to my channel if you're new here. I wanted to do a video like this for forever now, all the way since I wasn't even in the Rise fandom, but what better time than now to do this with my art skills being mediocre enough to finally share something. Also, side note, I haven't finished the speed paints while writing this script, so apologies for any inconsistencies with the character designs versus what I say about them, because sometimes I change things on a whim. Because of the newfound Rise popularity and my unfaltering love for the fandom, I've decided to share my human designs with the boys, while also providing my favorite episodes centric around each one. This is mostly just to rant about their characters and also show off my designs, but yada yada, you already know the drill. Let's just get into it. First off, let's talk about Leo. My human design of Leo features him with a lighter brown skin tone, wavy hair with bleached ends, I'm gonna butcher this word, vitiligo where his stripes are, heterochromia, and a hearing aid due to his turtle species having bad hearing. I wanted each design to present their assigned shape, Leo's being a triangle, so I did my best to implement triangles into his hair at the ends and into the shape of his jaw. It's a bit more pointed and triangular than the other three. Also, I chose a star hair clip as his cloaking brooch because I felt like Leo would take pride in his hair and how long it is, so a hair clip would be fitting. Now on to my favorite Leo-centric episodes. For obvious reasons, I'm leaving out the movie, but I will reference it. And by the way, these are in no particular order. First on this list is Minotaur Maze. This is the first episode in the series that addresses Leo's inferiority complex and his need to be useful or worthy of being on the team. He spends the entire episode desperately trying to gain his brother's praise or approval after he's unable to show progress with his mystic powers or open the door to the run-of-the-mill pizza place. I love this episode because it's the first episode that really captured my interest. I didn't really care for Leo until this episode because, well, I didn't really watch TMNT before Rise. I'd seen a few episodes of the 2012 show growing up, and the original movies, and maybe even a bit of Bayverse, but I'm pretty sure that's about it. This episode made me really relate to his character without actually delving into the serious issues just yet. It was a light, fun episode that set up one of Leo's core character traits quite nicely. Next up on this list is Portal Jacked. Just like Minotaur Maze, this episode also nicely sets up Leo's issues with his own self-worth without being too heavy about it. There's the one infamous scene of Leo saying he's nothing without his brothers that everyone has seen his dad edit on TikTok at least once, and that's not a bad thing. This was the first time in the series Leo directly addressed his feelings on his role in the team. How can you have a team with just a face man? Or how his role is insignificant without his brothers. It's a nice little episode that made me further relate to his character a lot. And last on this list, because I'm only doing 3 at a time, is Many Unhappy Returns. This isn't really a Leo-centric episode per se, but I like the role he played in it and what was addressed with his character in this episode. While fighting the Shredder, Leo was calculating a plan against Big Mama, and the entire time his father was very outwardly showing his distrust of his son. Leo asked him about this, and even though the question was brushed off in the moment, it's a good thing that it's brought up because this is a real issue that needed to be talked about before Leo could become leader and reach his full potential. None of his family trust him to lead because they don't think he takes things seriously enough. I've had first-hand experience of this, and let me tell you, it's not fun. I'm pretty sure, besides the movie because I accidentally watched it before the show, this is the scene where I finally was like, yep, I can him. Because along with feeling useless to his team, Leo also isn't trusted by them, further adding to his low self-worth. It's sad and brilliant, but it's also good that they brought it to light because in that same episode, Leo proved himself intelligent and calculated enough that his father gained some trust in him, enough probably to push him to make Leo leader at the end of the show. I'm also really happy we got to see some father-son bonding because it really showed how similar Leo is to his dad, which is something I won't get into because somebody else already did it, and if I find the video I'll put it in the description and on screen right now and you just go watch it. But yeah. Next up on the list is Donny. With Donny's design, I wanted to emphasize all the things he needs to be comfortable, like having his hair up, having a do-rag over it, his goggles, his glasses, etc. I also gave him an Apple Watch in place of his wrist tech and fidget rings as his cloaking device because autism. Also, my human design of Donny has a cane because I translate his soft shell to back problems, specifically lower back problems that make walking a struggle. I've seen others translate this to him needing a back brace, which is brilliant and I wish I thought of it. Nonetheless, I like the design of his cane too much to get rid of it because it looks like his tech bow. With his design, I also added a more purpley tone to his skin and his jaw has a more rectangular shape. Lastly, I tried my best to draw his eyes more Asian presenting than his brothers because all of them are Blasian, but I'm terrible at drawing Asian features, so it looks a little wonky. I'm trying to get better at it though. Moving on, I also did my best to keep his shape, rectangles, into his design by keeping his hair more box-like and having rectangle glasses. I'm also on the fence about giving him vitiligo too, like Leo, because they're twins, and I already gave them matching heterochromic eyes. Just switched the blue and leaning more towards purple, but we'll see if that makes it into the final design while I'm drawing. Future me will let you know. Alright, now on to my favorite Donny-centric episode, which will be hard because there's a lot. First on the list is Donny's gifts. Though I have a hard time watching this episode due to a specific fanfiction, I still really enjoy it. Donny reminds me a lot of myself in the sense that we're both autistic nerds with a knack for all things tech, and we both love purple. This episode was just really fun and lighthearted while bringing to light something about Donny that I personally love and relate to about his character. It's that his love language is gift giving. In this episode, he spends a lot of time making a gift for his brothers, and though the message behind them was a bit rude, the intention was sweet and personal and thoughtful, and it's an aspect of Donny that's really nice to see because people often assume that low empathy feeling people don't or can't experience feelings like love, which just isn't true. Donny very obviously loves his brothers deeply, just shows it differently, and I like how his brothers know this. They know that the gifts mean a lot to Donny because it's a physical symbol of how much he loves and appreciates them and wants them to succeed. It's just mwah. Next up, you already know, it's Purple Jacket. This episode just screams autism to me, and I get genuine, pure, childlike happiness watching it. Donny's excitement and love over a piece of clothing is just so relatable and fun to watch because I've had this exact same experience many times in my life. He's so great in this episode, and there are so many quotable lines in here that I wish were applicable in everyday conversation. Also, his happiness just to be a part of a tech club and the others being impressed by him is beautiful. Now, I wish I could add Mystic Library as number 3, but it's not really a Donny-centric episode, though I will admit it does have one of the best Donny scenes in the entire show.
Loom 16, take corridor B, down the stairs past the Ibis Tapestry.
The number 3 spot on the list, though, has to go to Donny vs. Witchtown. I was in between this and Breaking Purple, because Breaking Purple is another really good Donny episode that points out his difficulty expressing his feelings, but I had to pick this one. Hear me out. Donny vs. Witchtown is a great episode displaying his difficulty accepting change, stubbornness to things he can't understand, and his insecurity about his place on the team and in the family, aka how he became the most kin character in the show right next to Leo. Throughout the entire episode, he's angry that April didn't come to him for help with a project, which feeds his feelings of inaccuracy and the idea that they soon won't need him on the team. This leads to him going to extreme lengths to prove that science is still cool in order to convince April and the townsfolk, or maybe just to convince himself, that his special interest in what he likes is still a strong asset of the team. He's prided himself on being the smart one for probably his entire life at this point, so seeing something that does what he can do but makes it look easier and more convenient is probably really scary for him. We also know that Donny doesn't like what he can't understand, which also feeds his hatred for the Mystic. I like how when his worries are finally brought to attention, April tells him straight up that she doesn't like him for his tech, but for him. I sort of wish she would have also mentioned that she still loves his tech just because it makes him happy. Because while she let him know that his only value isn't what he can create, it's also important that Donny knows that his tech is still important simply because it makes him happy. It's easy to tell someone that they're not what they create, but if a person enjoys what they do, then that sentiment can quickly turn into something negative. Moving on now, next up is my boy Michelangelo. From this point on, all I have of their human designs is the first draft, so once again, sorry for any inconsistencies. For Mikey's design, I did my best to keep the circular look of his face and body by making his limbs and center a little bit rounder and chubbier. His body is covered in circle bandages and his afro is big and bouncy. I gave his design lots of paint splatters and bracelets to give some color and a lot of bandages to both hide his cloaking brooch, which is a band-aid on his cheek, but also because of the numerous little cuts and burns he gets out of nowhere. He also has faint freckles on his arms and cheeks because of his turtle species, box turtle, known for having spots. That's also the reason for his red eyes. Last on his design, I gave him a little pouch because it's mentioned in Minotaur Maze that Mikey is aware of his blood sugar, so I gave him the pouch to keep things like juices and candy in. He also doesn't always have it because sometimes Raph will carry it when he forgets. Alright, there aren't many Mikey-centric episodes, so bear with me here. The first one on the list is Hot Soup the Game. This episode is the first where we really see Mikey's thirst for independence and his specific dynamic with Raph. I'm really sad we didn't get to see it further, which we were supposed to, but whatever. Anyways, I like this episode because it also parallels with Casey's story about wanting to be independent and the ways they match each other all the way down to their matching dialogue. It's hilarious. Also, I love how Leo and Donny are rooting for Mikey and laughing at his lighthearted jabs at Raph in this episode. It's kinda sweet. Number 2 is You Got Served. I was in between this one and One Man's Junk because I love the message of both episodes, so I'll probably end up talking about both. I don't. Anyway, You Got Served is a good episode showing Mikey's dynamic with Leo and how similar they both are. I think out of the 4 brothers, Mikey and Leo's dynamic is the most accurate to how brothers are in real life. They're competitive, and even though Leo tries to get Mikey to stop in the beginning, ultimately they both end up making things worse in their quarrel. It's amazing and hilarious. Reminds me of the little competitions I'd have with my brothers growing up where we'd see who could bring them in the most groceries or who could get ready the fastest in the morning. They were pointless and petty, but boy, they were fun. And also this episode shows how much I think Mikey looks up to Leo and wants to be just like him. Last on the list is Repairing the Baron. This is one of the episodes I love the most with Mikey because it shows one of my favorite traits of his character. It also reminds me of a very specific Undertale AU that I will not mention that I watched the shit out of a while back. It's his unwavering faith and belief in people. Despite what Draxum did to his family and the world, Mikey is willing to extend a hand to him in his time of need and accept him into the family because he has faith that Draxum can change. Mikey is the small minority of people that believes that anyone can change and that anyone can be a good person, and even when his family has his doubts, they still go with it because they love Mikey and want to see him happy. I also like how he uses his youngest child privileges to get his family on board. It's on brand for him. Anyways, Mikey's big heart and high empathy are essential parts of what makes him the glue of the family and the heart of the team, and I'm glad we got to see some of that before the show ended. However, I sort of hope if we get a season 3, Nickelodeon, please, then we can see the downsides of this perspective, since the closest we got was in the episode Nothing But Truffle when he was betrayed by Meat Sweats. Last but certainly not least is our favorite boy, Raphael. Oh boy, the parentification of Raph makes my heart ache, and I'm glad we got to see him learn to trust his family like they trust him, more so in the movie when he was mostly out of the picture. Anyway, for Raph's design, I tried my best to keep his shape more boxy, like his jaw and clothes, but I don't really think I succeeded. I don't know, maybe future me fixed it. Anyway, I made his cloaking brooch an earring because Raph is femme and you can't convince me otherwise. I like to imagine he enjoys wearing wigs and keeping his head shaved because of it. I might have changed that when I drew the thing though. He also likes to wear simple clothing because they never have his size when he orders things online. I don't have a lot for this design as of right now, but if I add something while drawing the character, then I'll put it on screen right now. There it is. Alright, my favorite Raph-centered episodes. Here we go. First one is Man vs. Sewer. To be honest, I didn't expect Raph to be the one so scared of being alone, but now that I've seen and analyzed his character, it only makes sense. That, and I saw someone speculate that it's probably tied to his claustrophobia and caused by a traumatic event, which I love and hate that theory. Anyway, my personal thoughts on it are that Raph was essentially raised as a second parent to Splinter. Therefore, he had a lot of pressure on him to make sure his brothers were safe and sound where he could see them. Due to this, Raph has a negative association with being alone, because it means that his brothers could be in danger, or he could lose them. I'm not sure how his claustrophobia would tie into this theory though, so maybe the other one is better. Moving on. Next up is Pizza Puffs. I like this episode because, unlike in other iterations where he was the hot-headed brother who was always competing with Leo, in this series he's hot-headed because he's not competing with Leo. In other adaptations, a lot of Raph's anger is linked to the fact that he's not the leader and he feels like he should be. But here, it's entirely because he is the leader. He's always worrying about his brothers and frustrated with them when they don't take things seriously and just assume he'll do everything for them. He's also bad at planning ahead, thinking things through, and ultimately doing things that a leader should be able to do. Despite this though, his brothers still depend on him to solve all their problems, mostly because he's the oldest, but also because he's, the leader. Whether or not he's good at it, he's given them guidance before, so they look up to him and depend on him. This episode really gives the others more independence, while also showing the source of Raph's anger and how it's different from the other versions of him. I love him so much. I'm sorry these are all so short, I don't really have a lot to say about Raph, which is really sad, but the last one, third one, is Sparring Partner. This episode isn't really talked about enough in regards to Raph's character, and I think I'll put an end to that, thank you. I was gonna put the finale here because that does a beautiful job of showcasing Raph's development and how he's grown from thinking that he needs to be the one to fix things and yada yada yada, but I think this episode really needs to be talked about more in terms of what it says about Raph. Basically, in this episode, Raph finds and takes one of the origami ninjas from the Foot Clan to become his sparring buddy. He tries to hide it from his brothers, but eventually they find out, and Raph admits that he would rather spar with Buddy, the paper ninja, than his own brothers because he just enjoys it so much. Now, a lot of people may see this as rude of Raph or just another fun episode, but here's how I see it. Raph is the oldest. We're told this a million times. If you have younger siblings, then you know how fun it is to be scolded because you were playing too rough with them and they got hurt. As the oldest, you should know better and be more careful and etc, etc. It's very possible that, both being the oldest and biggest brother, Raph never really has fun sparring or can put all of his strength into it because he has to be careful with his brothers, especially Mikey and Donny. This might have made it dull for him, constantly checking his strength and pretending for them because he can't put his all into it. But that's not the case with Buddy. Buddy is roughly the same size and in the same weight class as Raph, so that makes them equally matched. This would definitely make it more fun for him because now he can spar with someone without the worry of accidentally hurting them. That's also why he was so adamant on keeping Buddy a secret as well, because if his brothers knew this, they might get mad knowing that Raph didn't like sparring with them and usually faked his way through it so he wouldn't hurt them. It's also a fun episode that has Raph in the spotlight for once, and I just adore it and him. Well, that's all my favorite Rise episodes for each character in my human designs. Don't get me wrong, there are so many good episodes for each of these characters, and I can go on and on forever talking about more episodes with them, but this video is getting too long already, and the script is 6 pages, and I'm running out of time. I'm on a time limit right now, Thanks for watching. I hope I didn't bore everyone to death with my ranting. If you like this kind of content, then please let me know, because this is my first time doing anything like this ever. Also, if you'd like to see more videos like this with me ranting about TNMT and a cool speed paint in the background or something, then subscribe and maybe I'll get on it. If I see enough people wanting it anyways. Have a good day, everyone, and I don't know, go drink some water now or something. You probably need it.